Today I'm going to walk you through how to make your own sunny skies granny square. So you've got a nice little sun in the middle and then the skies around the edge. The main part of the pattern was going to be these exact colours, and after I started making it, it seemed a little bit too bold for the look that I was going for. So now what I've got is these as sort of accent pieces, and then the remainder of the pattern is going to be in this slightly more muted colour palette. So as you can see, it's very much the same thing, just with the blue section omitted. Now I'm going to show you how I made the central part first, and you'll see that this is not the same yarn. It's the same weight of yarn, but it's some lovely rainbow yarn, because what I did was I made up absolutely tons of these. These are part made. Here's one that I was working on earlier. And I've completely run out of the orange colour. So to show you how to make the centre, we're just going to work in this beautiful rainbow colour. So one of the main differences between these squares and a lot of the other ones I make is that I started with a magic circle in the centre. If you are familiar with making crochet toys, you'll be totally at home with making magic circles. However, if you tend to normally make granny square blankets, it's a little bit of a different technique. And so we're just going to have a quick look at that to begin with. To make a magic circle, lay the yarn across your hand and wrap it 2 times around these 2 fingers here. What you're going to do now is pinch to make this shape. So the yarn goes over your first finger, around your pair of fingers there, and they're pinched between your thumb and your little finger. You're then going to take your hook. For this whole pattern, every single part of the square is DK yarn, double knit, and I use a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook. So you're going to stick your hook through those 2 loops, pick up the yarn, turn it over so it's nice and secure, and pull it through. After that, you're going to pick up your yarn again, twist the hook again, and pull it through there. So what you have now is 2 loops, your little tail end, and the rest of your yarn. Hold your yarn and make sure that you've got some tension there. This finger is the controller of tension. You can pull tight or loose, so just a little bit of tension, not too tight. And you're going to take your hook and you're going to put it through the center of those rings, pick up your yarn and pull it through, pick up your yarn again and pull it through. And that's making 1 single crochet stitch into the loop. Now, you've probably noticed that I've got an English accent, but I crochet entirely in American terms. So this is a US single crochet, which is a UK double crochet. But I'll keep saying single crochet from now on because those are the terms that I've always worked in. So hook through again, pick up your yarn, over, through again, and that's 2 single crochets. So now we're going to make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if you've not done that before, just pause the video while you catch up and have a little look back if you're having trouble. So what you've got now is your 8 stitches inside your loops and 2 loose strings. What you're going to do is pinch right by the first single crochet you made and gently pull the back loop. Pull it through, and what that's done is close the inner ring of the circle. Then to close the whole circle completely, you're going to take your tail and pull that. And you will see that you've got this tiny little snail shell shape now. I'll try and put my fingers where it's in focus. There we go. Now to close your ring, you're going to take your hook and you're going to pop it through the 8th loop from the hook. So 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost doesn't look like a stitch right on the inside. You're going to pop your hook through there. And what we're going to do to close it is make a slip stitch. So pull it through the stitch and then pull it through the one on the hook. And here you've got a tiny little circle, and if there's a hole in the middle, just pull that tail again to completely seal the circle. Okay, and that's the center of your sun. What you're going to do to make the central part of your sun a little bit bigger is you're going to make some double crochets in pairs. So we start with a chain 3, which is going to be your first double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go back through that stitch where you started. This will be the only one that's a bit fiddly. Push it through, pick up the yarn, pull it through. So you've got 3 loops on your hook. Pull it through the first 2 loops, hook it up, next 2 loops. So you can see you've got 2 double crochets. You're now going to make 2 more double crochets into each of these stitches in the round. So there's 1 coming through and your second one. So as you can see, what we're doing is we're going to build up around here. So crochet with me now as we go. We're going to make this shape. Actually really liking how this rainbow yarn is looking. Making me wonder if I should integrate the rainbow yarn into this blanket pattern. Let me know what you think. Might be slightly too out there for what was intended to be sort of a simple but stylish blanket, but sometimes when you notice something looks good, you just want to go with it, don't you? So we're putting 2 of those double crochets into each stitch of the round. Now there is something that's a little bit like a false stitch at the end when you've made a magic circle, and it's really important that we don't put too many, or indeed too few, stitches in as we increase, because we need a symmetrical pattern for our granny square as it grows. So what I want you to do once you finish this section, if you're unsure, is have a count around the edge. So we should have doubled the stitch count, so it should be 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Lovely. Right, so what we're going to do now is close the circle again. So we're going to go into the top of that initial chain that we made, which was our first fake double crochet. Now pop the hook through. There we go. Yarn over, pull through, and slip stitch to close again. So that is our central section of our sun. So you see that's that section there. What we're going to do now is make the little rays that come out of the sun. We're going to do that initially with a chain and then some double crochets and chains. So we're going to chain 3 as our first double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to chain 2 as our first chain 2. So what in fact we've done is chained 5. You're going to yarn over for the start of your next double crochet, and you're going to go into the next stitch, yarn over again. So you've got 3 loops on your hook, pull through the first 2 and pull through the second 2. So what we're doing is making little rings as we go around. We just feed out a bit more yarn there. Lovely. Right, and then we chain 2. We're going to repeat this all the way around the circle. Okay, so we've got to the end of the circle, and what you can see now is that we're going to need to join this up into the top of the chain 3 so that we still have a chain gap there. So yarn through the loop, hook the yarn, pull it through, and then all the way through that little loop to join up. And then we go, we have that same shape just there. Perfection. Now what we're going to do is change colour, because we're going to swap to that blue section. So we need to snip off. Here we go. I'm going to pull it all the way through as a knot. And what I like to try and do is to crochet the loose end into the bulk of the pattern. It makes for less weaving in at the end, and it's a little bit quicker. You'll see I've left this little trail here. I don't tend to weave that in until the very end, because when you're working the square, occasionally it does work a little bit looser. So I like to be able to just pull it tighter as I go if I want to. So I had the foresight to leave some of the blue yarn, so we're going back to the correct colour. So we're going to cast on for this one. So that's different to the magic circle. What we're going to do is take our first finger and we're going to wrap it around twice. 1, 2, back loop over front loop. What is now the back loop all the way over the finger to make a little noose. Pop your hook through there and you've cast on nice and simple. I tend to work from 2 chain gaps back from the one that I finished on, just because where you sew in the yarn can create a slightly lumpy texture and it spreads that out. So hook through your chain space, pick up the main yarn, not your little tail, pull it through, all the way through. There we go. So you have 1 loop on your hook. You're now going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3 as part of your first double crochet. Yarn over, through, and you're going to make 2 further double crochets into this chain space. And from that point, you're then just going to make 1 chain and then 3 double crochets into each chain space, repeated all the way along. So let's look at the next one. We're coming in, and can you see that I'm holding the tail of the yarn and the previous tail of the yarn there? Because what that does is enables us to just automatically crochet the tail into the square, and that reduces that weaving in at the end that we want to avoid, well, most of us want to avoid. Okay, so we've come to the absolute end of the round, and just like before, we're going to join it to the top of that initial chain. So we're going to yarn through the 3rd chain, yarn over, yarn through, hook through the 3rd chain, yarn over, pull it through, and then pull it through that stitch there as well. Cut off your little tail and pull it through there. Now, your circle will not look like a circle. It will look like a bit of a creasy jumble like mine does. Don't worry about that. It will flatten as it gets the support from the rest of the structure of the square. What we're going to do next is going to give it quite a good space. I've not done anything to flatten that. That's just how it was made. A lot of people will pin out their granny squares to get them nice and flat, and I do that occasionally. But a lot of the time, knowing that they're about to be used and then creased up by the children, I just don't worry about it, and more often than not, it's absolutely fine. So here is your central sun in some lovely skies. Now what we're going to do is decrease away from there for the border. So I'm just going to cut that off because it's actually attached to one I was making earlier. Here's our cream yarn for the next layer. So I really like this yarn. This is Serda Snuggly Merino wool yarn, and it's really, really soft. Highly recommended if you can get hold of it. Not sponsored. Here is your sun and your skies, and what you're going to do next is you're going to make lots and lots of chains with some single crochets in between. So here we go. Hook through. We are going to find a chain space that's 2 back or 2 forwards, just not quite where we started off, so we can pop it through here. Here's a little chain space between your blue stitches. That's probably a better view for you. Poke your hook through, yarn over, pull through. Oh, I will just entirely pull it off your hook. Let's try again, shall we? Hook through, yarn over, pull through. Right, you're going to make a chain 3. 1, 2, 3 from there, and then you're going to go straight through the next one. So we're making a single crochet, not a double crochet, so don't yarn over first, only yarn over once it's through. So chain 3, single crochet, 1, 2, 3, single crochet to join to the spaces, and you're going to do that 3 times with a chain 3 for your edges, and then you're going to make a chain 6, 4, 5, 6 for each of the corners. So chain 3 and single crochet, so chain 3 and single crochet as each edge. So 1, 2, 3 times for each edge of your square, and then you've got your 6 for the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's very funny working at this angle because it's not the angle that I normally crochet at, but obviously it's the one that you need to be able to see what I'm doing. So there's a phone in the way of my hook, so I'm very sorry if it occasionally goes out of shot. I do hope you can see all of this. 5, 6. If you have any questions, obviously just pop them in the comments section below. I'll also make a matching written guide to this on the Lucy Kate Crochet website, so I'll put a link below, or just write Lucy Kate Crochet into Google and go over to the website, and it'll be on the patterns section for you there. Lots of other stuff there as well. Right, final section is the corner, so that's 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, and join into the corner. Now you can detach and add your yarn again, or you can go into your next chain space, which is your first chain 3, and slip stitch, and then you'll be starting at the same point that you would be if you cast off and on. So if you're not changing color, I always recommend just doing that if you want to. It doesn't affect the look of the thing at all. So once again, we're going to be chaining 3 as a double crochet, and then putting 2 more double crochets into that same space. But this time you're not going to make a chain between these ones, not for the sides of the piece. You're just going to come along, working 3 crochets into your chain gaps for the sides, and then into the corners. What we're going to do is do double crochets again, but we're going to do 5, then a chain 2, then 5 more into the same space. So your big corner is going to be full of stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that's made one edge, and then chain 2, that's for your little corner, and then we're going to pop. Dear, what's happened here? That's not what you want to see, especially not after I said how nice that yarn is. There we go. Right, and then another 5 to finish the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So you can see that that's starting to build up. So we'll just put the rest of those into there. And then we've just got the outside border section to finish. And as you can see, we've now come to the end of the round. So once again, we're going to do a nice little slip stitch into the top of the starting chain of the round to join it together. There we go. Lovely stuff. Right, and we've just got one final section to put on, and that is going to be our grey border. Now this grey border is a slightly different texture but the same weight of yarn, and what it does is it gives it a nice sort of rigidity to it, especially since we're just going to crochet in every single stitch all the way around. So for a final time, we're going to cast our yarn onto our hook. There we go. I really do like the contrasting colour of that sun. I might have a play around with that. Maybe it could be sort of the central square of the blanket or something, who knows. Right, you're going to pop your hook through one of the edge stitches, pull it through and slip stitch to join. There we go. Chain 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to simply make a double crochet into every single one of the edge stitches all the way around. And again, I'm going to take the opportunity to try and hide that little tail of yarn from the previous round. Obviously the tail from this round we won't be able to crochet into anything. We'll have to use a yarn needle or a tapestry needle to sew that in. You can weave in your ends using a crochet hook as well. I find a little bit more fiddly. Sometimes it's easier if you use a smaller size of hook than you were going to use otherwise. But yeah, it can be done if you're really anti sewing with a needle. You often hear people complain that the worst part about crochet is getting those ends hidden, and that's one of the nice things about granny squares, is that you can do the bulk of that job whilst you're crocheting. And here we are at the end of the square. So we've got no chains to join. We're just going to go straight from our last stitch into the top of that initial chain for the round once again. Pull our hook through everything. There we go. Snip off the train of yarn and pull through. And there you have it. A lovely sun granny square. Now, as I said before, if you want to ensure that it goes nice and flat, there are things that you can do and ways that you can pin it down. Just a cork board is absolutely fine. But honestly, even a bit of cardboard and some pins, you can just, anything that holds the structure in place. I have also been known to put large books on top of granny squares on occasions. So here's what we've got so far for the blanket that I'm making. So I've completely made up these squares, and I have also completely made up these squares. Here we go, quite a lot of squares there. And I have got an awful lot of part-made squares that I still need to finish. One of the lovely things about granny squares, which, you know, to an outsider might not seem so brilliant, but is the repetitiveness. If you've thought, oh my goodness, I've made this one square and it's taken ages, do not panic. It will get quicker and quicker. You can also do what you can clearly see that I do, which is make the same sections repeatedly and then make the next layers on them. And that does really, really speed up the process quite a lot. So you make all your suns, then you make all your next colours, and then finally, boom, borders and done. I hope that was helpful for you. As I said, I will be putting a written guide on Lucy Kate Crochet website as well. And I'm always really, really happy to hear from you and to answer any of your questions if I can. Have fun and happy crocheting.